Good morning. I'm Dr. Henry Walker. I'm 90 years old, and yes, I'm still practicing medicine. Every week, I welcome patients into my clinic. Every morning, I take my dog for a walk. And on Sundays, I sit down for a game of chess with my grandson. People often ask me, "Doctor, how do you keep going at your age?" And to be honest, I wasn't always this way. There was a time when getting out of bed in the morning felt like the hardest task in the world. My joints ached. I felt tired all the time. I wondered if this was just how aging worked, if I had to accept the slow decline. But something changed. And what I discovered didn't come from a miracle drug or an expensive therapy. It came from paying close attention to a few forgotten parts of the body. Areas we often ignore, but hold the key to long-lasting vitality. In today's video, I want to share with you the 4 secret zones I've focused on for the past 2 decades. If you give each of them just 5 minutes a day, it could change your health more than you ever imagined. Let me show you how. 20 years ago, I remember waking up one morning and just lying there, staring at the ceiling, dreading the idea of moving. My knees were stiff, my back ached, and I felt like I hadn't slept at all, even though I'd been in bed for 8 hours. I was still working full-time back then, but every day felt heavier than the last, physically, mentally, emotionally. I started doing what most people do. I took supplements. I bought books on anti-aging diets. I went on weekend retreats where we did slow yoga and drank green smoothies. And while none of it hurt, none of it truly helped either. I felt like I was patching leaks in a sinking boat. It wasn't until I slowed down and started looking at the basics, really looking, that I noticed a pattern. In my own body and in the hundreds of patients I had seen over decades, I realized that our health wasn't just declining because of age, it was declining because we were neglecting the simplest, most foundational parts of our physical being, parts of our body we almost never think about unless they're in pain. I started focusing on 4 areas. Areas no one ever talked about in medical school or in the health magazines. They weren't glamorous. They didn't require fancy tools or expensive treatments. But they were powerful. And when I gave each of them just 5 minutes of care a day, things started to shift. My sleep got deeper, my digestion improved, the pain in my joints eased up. I had more energy, genuine, steady energy, not the kind that fades by lunchtime. I began sharing this with a few of my older patients. Some were skeptical, others were desperate enough to try anything. But almost all of them came back and said, "Doc, I feel better." And I didn't think that was possible at my age. That's why I'm here with you today. Because I know what it's like to think your best days are behind you. I know what it's like to settle, to accept that fatigue, pain, and foggy thinking are just part of getting older. But I also know something else now. I know that with just a little attention, a little care, and a few minutes a day, you can turn the tide. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through these 4 areas, what they are, why they matter, and how you can start taking care of them right now. No gimmicks, no overwhelm, just 4 simple steps toward feeling better in your own skin. Let's begin. These 4 areas, well, I like to think of them as hidden control centers. They're not flashy. They don't get talked about in the media. You won't see them featured in wellness magazines or flashy commercials. But they're doing some of the most important work behind the scenes. They regulate the flow of blood to your organs, they help your body eliminate toxins, they influence how your brain functions, how clearly you think, how deeply you sleep, even how calm or anxious you feel throughout the day. And yet most of us, myself included, for a long time, go decades without giving them the care they deserve. I stumbled onto this after years of observation, watching patterns in my own body and in my patients. I noticed that the folks who aged well, who still had spark in their eyes and spring in their step, even into their 80s and 90s, they all had one thing in common. They paid attention to these parts of their body, even if they didn't always realize it consciously. Now, I'm not going to tell you that doing this will make you feel 25 again. That's not the goal. But what I will tell you is that this can help you feel more you. steadier on your feet, sharper in your thinking, more connected to the rhythm of your day, and more in control of your own body. This isn't about anti-aging. This is about living well at any age. It's about giving your body the support it's been quietly asking for all along. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you through each of these 4 areas, one by one. I'll share with you how I care for them in my own routine, what I do, when I do it, and why it works. And more importantly, I'll show you how simple it is. You won't need a gym membership or a medicine cabinet full of pills. All you need is a little time, a bit of attention, and the willingness to start. Because if there's one thing I've learned in my 90 years on this earth, it's this. Small steps, done consistently, create the biggest changes. So, let's begin, starting from the ground up. Let's start where it all begins, our feet. We rely on them every single day. Whether it's walking to the kitchen for a morning cup of coffee or pacing through the grocery store, our feet carry us through life. Yet for many of us, especially as we get older, they become a source of pain, stiffness, even fear. I've seen patients so worried about a fall that they avoid walking altogether. And the less they walk, the more their body weakens. It becomes a vicious cycle. But here's the thing, your feet aren't just tools for movement. Each foot contains over 7,000 nerve endings, and they connect directly to your internal organs through a network that both Eastern and Western medicine now acknowledge. Reflexology calls them pressure points, neurology calls them nerve pathways, but the idea is the same. When your feet are cared for, your whole body feels it. I remember one of my longtime patients, Margaret, 78, sharp as a tack but barely able to make it across the room without wincing. Her words stuck with me. "Doctor, I used to love walking my dog, now I watch him from the window." We started with something simple, soaking her feet in warm water every evening, adding a handful of Epsom salt. She followed it with a light massage, nothing fancy, just using her thumbs to circle the arches and gently press the heels. She also began cleaning and drying carefully between each toe, which many people skip, especially when flexibility becomes a challenge. I encouraged her to switch out her worn slippers for a pair with good grip and support, even when she was just shuffling around the house. 1 month later, she came into my clinic smiling. "I walked around the block," she said, "without my cane." That might not sound like a miracle to someone younger, but to Margaret, and to me, it was monumental. That's the power of foot care. It's not about vanity or pampering, it's about circulation, balance, neurological health. And yes, it's about dignity, being able to move confidently and safely in your own home and beyond. And here's the best part, it only takes a few minutes a day. You can do it while watching TV or sipping tea, add it to your nighttime wind down. Before long, it won't feel like a routine, it'll feel like something your body craves. Now that we've started from the ground up, let's move upward, toward another area that's easy to ignore but deeply tied to your immune system and natural detox pathways, your underarms. Now that we've grounded ourselves, quite literally, with the feet, let's move just a little higher to a place that often goes unnoticed but plays an incredibly important role in how our body stays clean and strong. The underarms. Most people only think of this area when it comes to sweat or odor. It's something we try to hide, cover up, spray down. But let me tell you something I've learned after nearly 7 decades in medicine. Your armpits are not just about hygiene. They are home to over 20 critical lymph nodes, tiny but powerful filters that help your body clear out toxins, fight off infections, and maintain a healthy immune response. In other words, your armpits are part of your body's natural detox system, and yet we block them up with chemicals, cover them in synthetic deodorants, and never think twice about the impact. I had a patient named Evelyn, 75 years old. Every spring and fall, like clockwork, her allergies would flare up, coughing, congestion, even wheezing. She had drawers full of antihistamines and would joke that she should buy stock in her allergy pill brand. We started working on her overall health, and one of the things I suggested was something most doctors don't talk about: underarm care. She switched to a fragrance-free soap, gentle enough to maintain the skin's balance. After showering, instead of quickly toweling off and moving on, she took a moment to completely dry her underarms using the cool setting on her hairdryer. This kept moisture and the bacteria that thrives in it at bay. Then came the biggest shift. She tossed out her old deodorants and switched to a natural blend of coconut oil and baking soda. On alternate days, she used diluted apple cider vinegar to help balance the skin's pH. And finally, each morning while her tea brewed, she gently massaged her underarms in small circles. Just 2 minutes per side. That's it. 2 months later, she walked into my office with tears in her eyes. "No meds this fall, doctor," she said, "not one." She called it her underarm miracle, but to me it was simply the body doing what it's built to do once we stop getting in its way. This routine might seem small, even strange at first, but it supports one of the most essential systems we have, our lymphatic system. It's not about being natural for the sake of trend. It's about giving our bodies a chance to breathe, cleanse, and protect us the way they're designed to. From here, we continue our journey upward and inward to a part of the body that's deeply tied to circulation, to liver function, and to something many older adults quietly struggle with: swelling, heaviness, and poor sleep. Let's talk about your inner thighs and why they deserve more care than they get. If you've made it this far, you're already beginning to see a pattern. Small, forgotten parts of the body that, when cared for properly, unlock powerful changes throughout our system. We started with the feet, the foundation of movement, then moved to the underarms, our detox center. Now we shift to a zone that very few people ever talk about, yet it plays a central role in both blood circulation and liver function: the inner thighs. It might not be the most glamorous part of the body, but believe me, it's one of the most important. Go ahead, place your hand gently on the inside of your upper thigh. If you feel a steady pulse, that's your femoral artery, one of the body's main highways for blood flow. Just beside it lie clusters of lymph nodes that support everything from detoxification to immune regulation to reducing inflammation. When this area becomes congested or neglected, it doesn't just affect your legs. It affects how your entire body feels and functions. I first realized the importance of this zone through a patient of mine, Mr. Collins. He was 72, a former high school basketball coach, full of spirit but constantly tired. He told me his legs felt heavy by the afternoon, and at night they would ache and tingle to the point where sleep was almost impossible. He'd been to several doctors, had scans and tests, but no clear answers. During a routine physical, I noticed tightness and dry skin along his inner thighs. He wore snug synthetic underwear, rarely stretched, and admitted he skipped this area during bathing because it was just hard to reach. We started small. I asked him to begin washing that area gently every day with warm water and a natural fragrance-free soap. Something kind to the skin, but thorough enough to reduce irritation and buildup. Next, I had him switch to breathable cotton underwear, looser, softer, and more forgiving. He was hesitant at first, but after a week he admitted, "Doc, I don't know why I ever wore those tight things." Then we added movement. Each morning, while waiting for his coffee to brew, he sat on the edge of his bed and did simple butterfly stretches, bringing the soles of his feet together and gently lowering his knees. On days when that felt like too much, he lay on his back and slowly lifted one leg at a time, letting gravity do the work. Just a few minutes a day. Finally, especially during the warmer months, I recommended he dust the area lightly with cornstarch-based powder to reduce friction and keep things dry. 6 weeks later, he reported something that made us both smile. His legs felt lighter. The swelling had gone down. But more importantly, he was sleeping through the night. And when we reviewed his lab work, his liver enzymes previously elevated had returned to normal. He hadn't taken any new medications. All he had done was care for a part of his body he'd spent years ignoring. That's the magic of the inner thighs. When blood and lymph can flow freely through this central hub, everything gets a little easier. Digestion, detox, circulation, even energy levels. It's not about stretching for an hour or buying expensive products. It's about taking a few quiet minutes to give attention where it's needed most. Now, as we rise even further, we come to perhaps the most misunderstood area of all, the upper back and scalp. Most people don't realize it, but these areas are deeply tied to brain function, mental clarity, and even memory. Let's talk about how caring for your back and scalp could help your mind feel sharper and your days feel lighter. We've made our way up the body, feet, underarms, inner thighs, and now we arrive at what I call the command center, your upper back and scalp. It's easy to think that tiredness, forgetfulness, or mental fog are just part of getting older. And yes, aging brings its changes, but I can tell you after 60+ years in medicine and 90 years of living, many of those symptoms aren't just about age. They are about circulation, nerve tension, and lack of attention to some of the most critical areas of your body. Your back and scalp might not seem connected to your brain, but they are. The muscles along your neck and upper spine influence how well blood flows to the brain. When they're tight, knotted, or neglected, they restrict that flow. Your scalp, meanwhile, is rich with blood vessels. A healthy, well-stimulated scalp helps ensure your brain is nourished, alert, and functioning clearly. I've experienced this myself. There was a stretch in my early 70s when I felt like I was always in a fog. I'd walk into a room and forget why. I'd misplace my keys, repeat conversations. It was subtle at first, but enough to worry me. I didn't want to become one of those doctors who knew the science but ignored his own symptoms. So I started experimenting with something simple: back brushing and scalp massage. Every morning in the shower, I used a long-handled brush to gently scrub my back. I'd start at the base of the spine and move in slow upward circles, all the way to the shoulders and neck. It took just a couple of minutes, but afterward I'd feel more awake, like I'd shaken off a layer of fog. Then, morning and night, I'd take 5 minutes to gently massage my scalp. Using just my fingertips, I'd move in small circles from the base of the skull up to the crown and temples. One of my patients, Gloria, 76, was having similar struggles. "Dr. Walker," she said, "I just don't feel sharp anymore. I forget names. I get tired doing nothing. Is this how it starts?" We added this simple routine to her day: a warm shower with back brushing, light neck stretches, and a nightly scalp massage before bed. 2 weeks later, she came into my office smiling. "I remembered where I put my keys, and I slept through the night. I haven't done that in years." We also added a few gentle spinal movements to her mornings: slow neck rolls, shoulder circles, side bends. Nothing strenuous, just enough to keep the nervous system open and the blood flowing freely. And in the evenings, she would rub a bit of lavender-scented oil into her neck and upper back. It became her signal to unwind, and her sleep improved dramatically. When we support this nerve center, our spine, our scalp, we support everything the brain needs to do its job: memory, focus, calmness, even emotional resilience. We begin to feel a little clearer, a little lighter, a little more like ourselves. Now that you've learned about all 4 of these powerful yet often neglected areas, your feet, your underarms, your inner thighs, and your back and scalp, you might be wondering, how do I fit all this into my day? You're not alone. And the good news is, it doesn't have to be complicated. Let me show you how just 5 minutes a day can turn these small habits into a life-changing routine. I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds good, doctor, but isn't it a little late for me? Maybe you're in your 70s, 80s, or even 90s. Maybe you've had decades of aches, fatigue, or health setbacks. And maybe, like many of my patients over the years, you've resigned yourself to thinking, this is just how aging works. But let me tell you something from the heart. Not just as a physician, but as someone who's walked this path alongside you. Some of the most profound transformations I've seen didn't happen in people who were young and spry. They happened in people who had already retired, who thought their best years were behind them, and who still decided to give these small habits a try. One of my patients, Eleanor, was 84 when she started. She could barely walk to the mailbox without needing to sit down. 6 months into this routine, 5 minutes a day, just focusing on one part of her body at a time, she was walking in the park again unaided, smiling like a woman who had just won back a piece of her freedom. The secret? It's not about doing everything at once. It's not about turning your life upside down or setting alarms for complicated regimens. It's about small, consistent actions, just 5 minutes a day. That's all. 5 minutes where you slow down, breathe, and give your body the care and attention it's been quietly asking for all along. To make this even easier, I often recommend a simple weekly rhythm. One focus area per day, just like brushing your teeth or brewing your morning coffee. It becomes part of your natural flow. Here's a structure I've shared with many of my patients. Monday, feet. Begin the week grounded. Soak and massage your feet while listening to the morning news or sipping coffee. Wednesday, armpits. After your shower, spend an extra 2 minutes massaging your underarms and applying natural deodorant. Think of it as immune support, not just hygiene. Friday, inner thighs. As the week winds down, give your circulation a gentle nudge. Do your thigh stretches while watching your favorite evening program or listening to the radio. Sunday, back and scalp. A quiet night routine. Brush your back in the shower, then take a few minutes before bed to massage your scalp and loosen your neck and shoulders. Let it ease you into rest. And the best part? You don't have to carve out extra time. You can tie each of these habits to something you already do. Massage your feet while your tea is steeping. Stretch your inner thighs during commercial breaks. Do a quick lymph massage while your bathwater is running. Massage your scalp right before you turn off the bedside lamp. You see, the power isn't in doing more, it's in doing what matters, and doing it consistently. I've seen it again and again. People who thought they were too old ended up gaining more energy, better sleep, clearer minds, and even a renewed sense of confidence. Now I'd like to leave you with one final thought, one that's guided me through every decade of my life, and through every patient I've ever treated. Because the truth is, this journey isn't about chasing youth. It's about choosing vitality at any age. Let's talk about that. I'm 90 years old. I still laugh loud and often. I still work, not because I have to, but because I want to. And more than anything, I still live with a sense of purpose, energy, and deep gratitude. That didn't come from some miracle cure or secret fountain of youth. It came from showing up for myself every day in small, meaningful ways. Health, real health, isn't flashy. It doesn't live in a bottle or behind a pharmacy counter. It lives in the little things. The warm water you soak your feet in, the gentle circles of a scalp massage, the stretch you do before bed, the breath you take when you slow down and care. It lives in consistency, in intention, in kindness toward your own body. So today, I'm inviting you to start small. Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes for the parts of you that have carried so much for so long. Your feet, your underarms, your inner thighs, your mind. You don't need a new life, you just need a new rhythm. One where your health is not an afterthought, but a quiet act of love. Take back your energy, take back your sleep, take back your health, one quiet miracle at a time. And if you ever feel like you're too old, too tired, or too far gone, remember me. I'm 90, and I promise you can start today